Welcome back to the Sharon Fitzmaurice podcast and episode 91 today. And my guest is the lovely Clare Mansfield, currently working as a primary school principal and teacher. She is passionate about writing, teaching, and helping others. Her first book, Away with the Fairies, A Fairy's Guide to True Love, was published by Seaburn Books in 2013. She is also, I love it, she is also a qualified personal and business life coach and a holistic therapist. Clare runs regular integrated energy therapy IET practitioner training days and how to read the Akashic Records workshops for adults in Gloucester House Holistic Centre. And I love this part. Her proudest achievement has been becoming a mom to her precious twin daughters, Zoe and Lily, and their little sister, Isabella. She is happily married to Shane, and they all live together in the beautiful countryside in County Carlow. You're very welcome, Clare.
Thank you, Sharon. Lovely to be here. This is my first podcast, so I'll trust you to guide me and facilitate.
You will be fabulous. I've had a few people recently, and it has been their first time doing a podcast. So I always say, for me, it's just like having a conversation, meeting somebody new for the first time and at an event, or you're sitting in a cafe and you get chatting, and all of a sudden you spark interest by what you're doing. And I always get, oh my God, tell me more about that. So it's the very same. For me,
Perfect.
it's just you sharing what you love doing with everybody else that's listening in.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Good, good. So Clare, you're on your Easter holidays, I assume, at the moment
Yes,
as a teacher.
I
Yeah.
sure am.
And I'm sure that is so lovely because
Oh,
we know it's very busy in schools now. And I'm not sure what your school, the size and numbers are, but it's very busy, isn't it, every day?
very busy. Yes, I'm a teaching principal in a very small school. So we have 30 pupils, so it's like a big extended family. It's really, really nice. Two classrooms. So it is absolutely lovely. But just as a working mom, I have three young kids then as well. Twins are 6 and little baby is 2. So it's kind of non-stop, I have to say. And then I have all these big passions and loves that I want to do as well.
Yeah.
So the girls are with their childminder today, and they were yesterday, and it gives me time to do a little bit of dabbling in the other world, which
Oh, I
is really nice.
love that. Yeah, it's really important for you as well because I know there's
Absolutely.
lots of working moms and dads, and they sometimes feel guilty about taking time for themselves. But one of the best things you can do is give yourself space to do what you love because you're a better parent, I think, as well, aren't you?
I totally agree. I was an older mom having the girls, and Shane and I met a little bit later in life as well. So we were used to having our own lives and our own interests. And I think I admired in some of my parents, some of the older moms as well, who continued to travel or continued to have their own, time away.
Mm.
And I actually made a conscious decision before I had my children, looking at friends or family, not to play the guilt card because nobody actually benefits. Nobody, like the kids don't benefit. You
Yeah.
don't benefit. So I actually choose not to feel guilty, and I send them somewhere to the childminders or a play date, and I tell them what mom is doing because I would love my three girls to also nurture themselves and they're big and take time and not apologize for that. So it's kind of a choice you can make.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and an awareness maybe to pick that, pick the higher road a little bit.
Absolutely, because guilt doesn't serve any of us.
No.
And it's, when you hear people saying, oh, I feel so guilty about doing this, by saying it, it's nearly they feel like, oh, well, I'm justifying it because I feel guilty because I'm not with my children all the time. But again, as an individual, you're more than just a parent, a mom or a dad, a daughter or a sister. That individual self needs so much nurturing and care and attention to be able to be a good mom or dad, to be a good daughter or sister or wife or whatever it is, and then to go out and do your own role in life, whatever that job is, and to have your passions, it makes you a better person.
It does. And you know what? You're a more interesting person to your partner or your kids when you have something to say about your day.
Yeah.
This is what mom is doing, and it's all very interesting or mad sometimes. That's fine
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's leading by example and that choice, which I think is really powerful, Claire, because again, our children will imitate us. And if they see mom or dad, always being present, that will become their norm in their adult life, and they'll think they can't go out and do things. And again, this cycle or the pattern continues of behavior, isn't it? So yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's really important to have your own time, and because we're always learning and growing, not just in school, Claire, isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not just in school, sometimes more outside of school, isn't it?
Yeah. And we'll just ask you about school for a moment. So, have you seen that school changes? Now, I know you're in a beautiful smaller school, and some of the schools are mad expensive, and there's 30 children in one class, but they might have two junior infants, two senior infants. I know locally here there is. And I think it's become a little bit, I'm not sure what the word I want to use, but it's nearly like they're trying to just get through the day. Does that make sense? Even the teachers, they're trying to get through so much in the day that they're quite exhausted by the end of the week. And then by the end of the term, they're just exhausted and wrecked, and some people get sick then because, that break, they haven't given themselves the time like you've given yourselves the time. Do you feel that it has changed in our school environment? You know,
Yeah, I think we are as a society, so schools are part of that. We're overloaded, we're
hmm
stressed out, and they're just throwing more and more on their plate. So this isn't trying to talk about school or give out as a principle. It's just that, I mean, we have loads of availability, loads of resources, but like I think sometimes learning to prioritize, and I think it's just become so busy in every aspect of life, school life, home life, kids and their lives. It's a bit of an overload, I think,
yeah.
mentally sometimes on people. All the physical ailments are related to stress on some levels, so that's become a lot more apparent. I think people are even starting to realize the links between our bodies and our minds and our emotions and all this, which is all this wellness and well-being, which is coming in.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know 10 years ago, maybe I started doing like little mindful meditations with children. And I did hear, not directly, but some parents thought she was a bit mad and why wasn't she doing maths? No, I was doing maths, obviously, as you know. So the meditations for little kids might be 5 minutes, just on mindfulness and creating a little affirmation or something like that. But parents now are coming for that kind of help and support to do at home with children. And
Mm.
that's a lovely shift and change. But it comes from that need to regulate children. And there's a lot of anxiety in
Mm.
families and kids.
Mm.
So well-being is coming to the fore, in education. I think that's fabulous. It suits the likes of us, doesn't it?
Oh my God, absolutely. And the more I hear about it, and I work with quite a lot of teachers as my clients, and again, I can see, their need to nurture and support themselves to be able to then go in and support the children they're teaching. So, as you said, the awareness is growing more and more. And I think sometimes when we're teaching the kids those little mindful aspects, and to acknowledge their feelings, that they go home to the parents, and the parents are like, "What? Where did you learn that today?"
Yeah.
And then the parents become aware, and it changes their perspective then, and again, how to react or respond to their children. So I'd say sometimes the parents think that, they're teaching the children everything, but I think sometimes the children are teaching the
Oh,
parents, aren't they?
absolutely. Yeah. Just some little nuggets my little girls come out with, and it's just unbelievable. Like it really is. It's unbelievable. One of my little girls is a highly sensitive little creature, and we recently had a bit of a clearing around the house. I'm really into feng shui, so I would always be managing energies. But I had a gentleman come to the house and do the lines underneath the geopathic stress.
The
Do you know
ley
what I mean?
lines, yes, and all that.
Ley
Yeah.
lines. So they were everywhere in our house. And really my intent from having him come was so we could all sleep. We were at that stage of interrupted nights still with kids and that. So the day after he was there, we all changed beds around, or one of the little sensitive girl changed bedrooms herself. She just said, I
Yeah.
think I would sleep better in here. She's in this
Wow.
room actually behind the computer. And we talked about, how some of her nightmares would go away now and that she was sleeping the right direction. So I kind of gave her a little bit of knowledge behind what was happening as well.
Yeah.
But she just recently told me we've all been having great sleeps, and she just said to me, I had a great sleep last night, and you were right, the bed is better, and I don't have nightmares. And then she said, oh no, actually, sometimes I do. She said, sometimes those, what did she say? Those naughty things jump into my mind. She's only 6.
Mhm.
And I said, oh no, well, you can come and tell mommy, or, she said,
Yeah.
no, I managed it myself. I solved my own problem. She said, I said, love heart, love heart, love heart. And it went away. And she said, so now I know I can do that for myself. I was amazed. I said, so like
Wow.
she's my teacher. And so I've told her how proud I was that she could solve her own problem with love. I mean, behind that is layers of spiritual realizations
Of
that
course
love
it
would
is.
conquer fear, and I
Yeah.
asked, could I share that with children as a message if it would help? And she said yes, and when I'm bigger, maybe I will tell people that too, that I can
Oh
help
my
them
God, she
grow.
sounds like that wise old soul that's back here on earth, isn't it?
And I
To
think I'm helping
care.
her, like to rear her. So it's
Yeah.
amazing. If you're aware, you'll hear those nuggets from kids too, and they're amazing. It's fabulous.
Yeah, I think children are amazing. And I talk about it. I'm working with a group at the moment, Claire, and they're the older generation, we'll say. And, it's amazing to hear them saying how, they weren't allowed to express themselves and they weren't allowed to, show their own individuality. And when I'm
Absolutely.
working with them, and even through meditation and mindfulness and asking them to use their imagination, I said, go back to when you were a child, and they all look at me with dismay and kind of say, but we weren't allowed to daydream. We weren't allowed to imagine that there could be something different because we had to get on with the practical thing of doing, because times were a lot harder for them. We understand that. But it's amazing how it was stopped. And now here they are, because I said it's never too late to open up your imagination. It's never too late to follow your dream or goal. And one of the ladies, it was she made me a little bit emotional by saying it. She said, I wish that I found you earlier, Sharon.
Oh, I know. But
You
she
know,
found you. She did.
there you
And
go.
that's one good thing we're doing. Actually, our last day on the Friday, there's lots of kind of creative schools now, or creativity in schools, or bringing an artist in residence. So we have a lovely artist working with us, and she shares her passions. And it was lovely that when she comes, we have to give the whole day over to that. And that's what you have to do in art and creativity. You have to create that time and that space, and not know where it's going. You might have an idea, even this podcast, we have an idea of what we'd like to talk about, but
Yes.
where is it going to go? What story is going to come up? It's all fine. And that's beautiful. And I think I do notice a lot of older people do get time to maybe start painting classes,
Yeah.
or a little bit of Tai Chi or meditation.
Mm.
And that's fabulous. And you know what? They find it. I think we're luckier. We're finding it earlier. So we get
Yes.
to be on a path. I started my dabbling at around 30-ish.
Yeah.
It was life coaching, so it's still very practical, for
Yeah.
the teacher. But I went into all sorts after that. And a lot of them were more middle-aged kind of age range. So I
Yes.
was lucky to be on the path a bit earlier. I agree with the older people there. It's fabulous to have the awareness throughout life, and
Yes.
there's a lot more to see in life then, when you can open your mind. Sure, it's
Yeah.
it's magical, really.
Oh, it absolutely is. Because again, I always say there's always something to learn, and if people turn around and say, I'm an expert at this, I said, we can never be experts at anything because we're always going to learn something new about ourselves, about how we respond to this world, the information we're receiving and how we interpret that, with our own intuition, and then how we share it as a story to others, through our words and actions. So we're
Absolutely.
always learning. I say I'm an eternal student of life, Claire. That I will always be learning. And I think that's a wonderful way to wake up every day. But for the children, and not to compare, but for the children now, I think that parents are so much more aware of their children and their needs, emotional needs, and listening to those stories of imagination and not foo-fooing them and pushing them away, and listening to what our children have to say. And then for the other side, for the older generation, listening to, what they believe they've missed out on in their childhood, but knowing they can still bring an aspect of that wonder into life later on, that there never is a time to say, I'm too old to do this,
Oh
or I
no.
can't change. We can change at any time, can't we, Claire?
Absolutely. And that's what this is about. And I really do love, I know you kind of invited me to talk about that Akashic Records. There's lots of other stuff I do as well, but it's a kind of current passion. And it's just like you could go in with a problem or a situation or a nosiness sometimes,
Yeah.
of what's happening, and receive like an information or a download or an insight, and it
Yeah.
changes everything, and
Yeah.
even that, like, healing can happen in the past life,
Yeah.
throughout a family, through recognition and understanding, awareness, and
Mm.
using the energy of compassion. It kind of creeps in there as well. It's
Yeah.
really amazing. Yeah, it really is.
Beautiful. So you've mentioned the Akashic Records there. So will you tell our listeners if they've never heard of it, because we can't always assume that everyone knows what we're talking about, but in
Mhm.
your own words, how would you describe to someone that's never heard of it what the Akashic Records are?
And this is where it's some of it is a mouthful. And luckily I listened to your podcast and I heard other presenters with mad stuff as well. This is one of the mad things. And
I don't think
people
it's mad at
people
all,
will
Claire.
people will switch off if it's not for them. And it's only really recently for me, but it's how would I explain it? I nearly start from the bottom up just to try and explain. So I like the way I can explain it here and now to you, pretending you know nothing about it, is that we are humans and we have our human experience here on Earth, and we have support around us with other human people as well at times. There's kind of an awareness, I think, of the energy of angels, that we can ask for invisible energetic support and help from our angels. And that's something I've always kind of been into. I'd encourage my kids to ask your angel, what would your angel say, and that kind of thing. So there's an understanding there, I think, of our invisible world. And people who've lost people then in spirit sometimes will be open to receiving a message of support and love, which is always, it's always love and support, love and support. That's the way it is. So it's like if there's a vibration, we're here on Earth on the ground with our gravity and all our laws of gravity. And around us, kind of a little bit higher energy, we have our angels and we have spirit. The Akashic records are kind of going up a little bit more. So when you become to a certain nosiness or awareness or need for healing, or just an energetic kind of frequency yourself, which lots of people are coming to now, it's like, if we go up, what else is there? And there's loads, I can promise you that. So what I kind of teach is how to access a different dimension of consciousness, which is where all the goodness is, the knowledge and the wisdom, the compassion, the healing, the love, the whatever you need at this time. And what I do is teach it in a very structured way in a workshop setting, so people can access it for themselves and find their own answers. So I think, just as a teacher, I'm a kind of I bring the horse to water, and let them drink that there if they want to drink it, which not
Yeah.
everyone does, but show them the way, and then it's up to people to do it for themselves. So I actually don't have time or space to do one-to-one kind of healings or that kind of thing, just with my life at the moment. So I just kind of went straight into it, right? Teach this to others, because we can all do it, and the ones who want to do it find you. So that's kind of it. It's a dimension of consciousness. It's the idea of it's like nearly a library of records of all our energy and everything that we have been. And some people will say it's all that is, it's all that ever was, it's all that ever will be, which I suppose it is as well. But in a more specific way, the way I work is it's kind of going into where you're at the moment. And if you're looking for a little bit of healing, you go in with a really particular intent, and there's support there then by, they call these the lords of the records. It all sounds a little bit grand, but look, we need to name things, with energy healing. When you're talking about angels, Archangel Michael, we kind of have as their protector. So I think things are named in the records just for us to try and put some understanding of it. So what we do is, I would always start off with lovely meditation to kind of bring our energy into more of an awareness state. And then we use a pathway prayer process. So it's nearly just the power of prayer brings us up to that area of records. And then under the guidance of lords of the records, master teachers, loved ones in spirit, we're guided to answers or energy states or awareness or messages that are right for us at this time. So it's extremely safe. It's extremely loving. It's a very high state of kind of healing or there's awareness, all of that. Yeah. And then there's little steps to it as well. So again, if somebody goes in with I suppose a situation or something that they want, to work around, they will receive either a point of view type healing where they get to give their point of view in that energy of being heard, being really, really, really heard, in the energy of acceptance. And sometimes that's very, very healing. That really is, and that's the healing. Or there could be another level. So it can be energy healing, or it can be, just kind of bringing people, helping them to become unstuck. So there's another kind of level of healing, we call it the second level. So if the point of view and really being heard hasn't shifted things, you go into looking for causes and conditions. And this can go into now past lives, past, in this lifetime as kids, you can go into in utero, or the idea of reincarnation, past lives. So I've had a few experiences of that. To me, it's absolutely real. If you feel it, you know it to be true. It's not for everyone, and that's fine too. But there's been some marvelous kind of stories of what happened in a past life, and it just shifts everything in this life. And you're like, oh, aha, this is what that is. And that awareness can be really therapeutic and healing as well. And then there's another level where even if, some people, and the courses come for that past life thing, the drama and the magic of that. And they hear what it is, and they've got their healing there, but they want a little bit more. So we can go a bit more. And the third level is a soul's truth. What's the truth right now? What is it? And I've done a little bit of going in and out myself in the last kind of week, if I get a chance, just even around this, like what are we doing here in the podcast? What's next for me around this kind of work? And one of the kind of messages I got as a soul's truth was just that this is part of a purpose that I have in this time, which is where I get the energy. And that I had to release the distractions that get in the way. And the distractions are all sorts of things. It could be work, it could be family, it could be, I have to tidy the house, today. And it could be your favorite TV series on Netflix. And since I received that message, the distractions are gone. And because I'm so on purpose. So there's, on some level, your soul is just, okay, yeah, I get this. And then if I have a distraction, it's like a purposeful distraction, because you can't be on all day long. But the work gets done first. So you kind of prioritize. So it can be something as subtle as that. And then there's loads of mad stories I have as well of people. And the stories sometimes shows the healing, if that makes sense to you. Yeah.
Absolutely. I could just listen to you all day, Claire, because it's lovely.
A chatterbox.
I love everybody else's experience as well, because for many of us, we have our experiences, and to hear other people, what they have learned through their own journeys. But what you've said there is really, it gave me kind of the shivers, your soul's truth. Because one of the things I would always have believed growing up, no matter what my life was like, traumatic, whatever, all of those things, but I always believed there was an inner guidance system. There was always somebody trying to guide me. I didn't always listen, of course. I didn't understand it. But again, I think, and it was through my own healing journey that I really became aware of my soul really guiding me. And I have gone and visited my past lives also. And it just kind of clicked, as you said, into place. It was like all of a sudden, 3 past lives that I had left with that bitterness, resentment, abandonment, all of those things were part of this life. And it was now in this life I had the awareness and the understanding to be able to heal that pattern, so I wouldn't carry it forward into another life. And I
Absolutely.
remember a lady saying to me, and which was very funny, because I have a great sense of humor, Claire. I'm not all serious all of the time because I think spirit want us to be joyful and laugh and have humor in everything we do. And I'm all about that. But I remember this lady said to me, why the fuck would anyone choose to come back here again? And
I
I
know.
said, because you're looking at it from a human experience, I said. But on a soul level, your soul knows how strong you are, what you have to share with the world. And it's not as if you've been forced back into this lifetime again to go through the worst things, to punish you. It's not. It's because we know we're so strong and that we want to learn more and we want to bring those gifts to the world. But again, when we have the awareness and understanding. So she started looking at herself and her life very differently when she understood that, from that perspective. Because a lot of people, and you probably meet them as well, they feel so downtrodden by life and by what's happening to them, and that they don't have a choice. And you mentioned that very earlier on in the podcast, and you said, it's a choice I make every day to
Mhm.
give myself time and space to choose this work and to also nurture the gifts and that I want for myself, but also want to share with others. And for me, it is that choice every day. How do I want to live my life today? And what do I want to be able to share with other people to help them to help themselves?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're spot on there. And you've used it's a little bit life gives you lemons, let's make a margarita. And that's what I see you as doing as a wellness coach. And sometimes, the traumas we have personally experienced, that makes you the right person to sit with that, person in need of healing and just say, I know, or not even say it. They just know. So we will invite to us the people who need us and what we are about. And at the moment, I'm working on a second book called Flowering. So my children were egg donor IVF babies. So
Wow.
we overcame infertility and have our little flowers in our garden. And
Oh,
that's the story. It's a story for children-ish about
yeah.
flowering and how to sow your own garden. And a lot of people who come to me without, it being official, it's overcoming infertility. We're very open about our story because it's so miraculous and wonderful and a
Wow.
triumph. And I suppose part of what I'd love to do now is help others to, flower in their own way.
Yeah.
As a person, flowering with Clare is the kind of brand that I'm going with, and to
Mm.
become the best person you can be, or like that, overcome whatever the challenge is by whatever means we have. And look what we have nowadays. The courses we have, the books we have, the wellness coaches that we have,
Mm.
to overcome all of these things and then become empowered and help others. It's amazing. It's a fabulous feeling.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like Zoe said,
absolutely.
Zoe said, love heart, a little sweet. This is what we do. Love heart, love heart, love heart. It all goes away. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And it is
And it
there.
is, it's finding, and you can hear that passion in your voice. It's finding that passion within yourself, isn't it, first to be able to share it outwardly. And I think when people meet you, they probably say, Claire, to you, you've achieved so much in your life. But again, they don't see the challenges you've had to face yourself personally. But as you said, you're
Absolutely.
quite open about it. Infertility, if we just step back to that, because that's a huge issue in our
Mhm.
society nowadays,
It's
Claire.
massive, absolutely massive. Yeah. And like that, I suppose, if your purpose was to have your kids, sure, I have my kids and they're there making noise and making a mess and all the rest of it that happens at this stage.
Yeah.
And I think because of the development work we do, or whether you like it or not, it's not going away for me because I have my girls, and then this flowering book wants to go out now,
Yeah.
7 years after it was scribbled on a pad in a hotel in Prague, because there's a need for that there, and I'm very open to share. And so
Mm.
you kind of follow your intuition there.
Yeah.
And even just before we came on the podcast, I can lay down. I asked, "What is this about? What do
Mm.
we?" This was when I went into my records. What is it about? Why am I doing a podcast? What is going to come out of it? And it was about just having confidence in what I know and what I do, and maybe sharing that with others. And again, that's just whether that's a soul's truth or we don't know, but it's, yeah, helping others to make a choice of empowerment, or lend a hand through the healing, and pull them up and show them what's there. And Spirit did that to me. I was lucky to be able to be open enough to receive those kind of messages from Spirit. Sometimes people want to hear it from a human being, so
Yeah.
the human being might channel that energy from Spirit, and that's fine too. And if people aren't open to Spirit, I just say it in such a way that, maybe you just impart the messages and the insights in the way that the person is able to receive those, as you know yourself, working with different types of people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Because I think a lot of people are looking, and with infertility, it's not just one person, it's their partner, it's their whole lives affected by it financially, huge stress upon them. And then it's their outer circle, their friends and their family, and everyone questioning them. And how did you get on this month? And what's the next step? And all of this pressure is on you to get pregnant, to be pregnant, to have the baby.
Yeah.
And I remember there was one lovely couple a few years ago, and just such a beautiful couple, but so sad because they couldn't have this beautiful child they imagined when they were going out and they got engaged and married, and the plan was, they could picture themselves with this baby. And I said, because you have the energy of that baby already in your minds and your hearts, I said, that baby is there. That baby is coming. Yeah. I said, I can feel it. Yeah.
Yes.
I said, that baby is there, but you are blocking it because you are so stressed out.
Yeah.
And the woman in particular, she was just falling apart with exhaustion from the thoughts of it, the worrying about it. So I said to the two of them, do you know what you can do now, the two of you? I said, I want you to forget about it for a few months. And I know that's the hardest thing asking you to do.
Right.
I want you to forget about it and go back to being a couple, that beautiful, loving couple that we're still imagining all the good things that are going to come into your life. And I want you to go and have fun. And I want you to make love just for the sake of making love, not for creating a baby or having to go in and get injections and all of that. And they were like, oh, we can't do that. We have to stick by and we have to. And I said, the fact that you have to is blocking you. And I said, you have to come back to the love. So I left them to it. And I said, it's all, like you said, it's your choice. Go and do what's best for you. But I said, you're exhausted. You really need to look after yourselves more. So I didn't hear from them for about 5 months. And the next email I got was to say they were pregnant.
Oh.
I was just said, for me, it was like your little daughter saying, come back to love, because we get caught up. The same thing in life, don't we, Claire? We get caught up in the distractions of having to do and being like this and and we forget the whole thing. But for them, they had already imagined that little soul coming into their life and the energy was there. It was now just allowing it space.
That's exactly it. And you ask about school, and school being a microscope of society, the overwhelm, the stress, the overload. I mean, with infertility, it's a huge stress on a couple, as you say, emotionally, financially, physically. I was very lucky. I had lots of support. I was very open with my journey. I asked for help and support and prayers and all of that.
Yeah.
But we had a pretty short journey in terms of all the injections, and we were just shown away. And I asked to see the way, and we were doing regular IVF. The stats are all like, not going to work really. I was still hoping for a miracle. And I just saw, I suppose in a vision or a meditation, I saw a brick wall, which was IVF. But I was able to look over the wall and see our children, and I was just shown, like, I had to go.
I have the shivers now, Claire.
I know. And that's Spirit. It's Spirit. Spirit give us these little signs and shivers. And this will help someone. It's a message for someone else. I was shown to go around the wall, and I went around the wall the other way to Prague. And it was a very lovely, easy, beautiful journey, and we did go off and have fun afterwards. And we had Isabella at 42 by accident. So these things happen as well. We don't know who's the biggest miracle.
That is amazing. Oh, that is so beautiful. And you often hear that people that have had, intervention, for their first pregnancy, and then they get this beautiful, loving, or in your case, loving babies.
Yeah,
And it's like, oh, wow, we're so happy. It's everything we want. They let everything go. And next thing they get pregnant naturally.
absolutely. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it can happen. Yeah, the letting go. I mean, it's much easier said than done. And I
Yeah.
know I've spoken to ladies who are told by their consultant, go away and have a bottle of wine, and it's it's so hard to hear that when you're in it, and
Very
that's all
hard.
you can think about and all you can see. And that's
Mm.
where energy work works really well, because one of the things I do is IET, integrated energy therapy, healing with the angels. And you can have somebody come in with the most horrendous, backstory that on a human level you can't cope with yourself, shocking things. And sometimes then I don't do the chat at the start, you just hop them up on the plinth and let the angels do the work. And all these blocked energies and emotions are cleared energetically. So it allows them to move away from stress into ease, or away from distrust into trust, heartache into openness to love. I totally believe. I suppose there's a book I've been working on since like years ago. So the first part of the book was it was just cathartic when I was going through the IVF, all about infertility, early menopause, depression, anxiety, all of that, the hard side. And then when I was pregnant with Isabella, I was up late at night as well. And I start writing about spirit and messages and, the art of allowing and that type of thing. And so the skeleton of the book is revelations and how to receive the gift of life. And that is a blend of science and spirit, IVF if need be, because a lot of people, that is the way. And spirit by openness or healing or magical messages or whatever insights that help you to learn and grow. And funnily, I'm a teacher, but kind of a holistic therapist as well, I suppose,
Yeah.
moonlighting as a holistic therapist, or spiritual healer, or whatever you want to call that. My husband is a medical scientist, so we're actually a really good blend for the journey we had to undertake. And it was a magical journey for both of us in different ways, and we got the optimal results, which people kind of like to hear as well.
Yeah.
So it can
It
work.
gives them hope to
Of course.
continue and not give up on themselves, because it can be, that the hope, you can see it dwindling, after they've had a few tests, and they just say, what's the point?
Yeah.
And that's giving up on your dream for you and your life and the love you want to bring into your life, So I think it's really encouraging hearing you speak, Claire, again, so openly about it, and sometimes it is that wall is placed in front of you, but there may be something else. There may be
Right.
another avenue for you to
Yes.
look, and it's sometimes to open up, because we can be kind of tunneled vision about this is the only way to do it. And I would say, well, if you look left and right, there might be something
Yeah.
else. There
Yeah.
might be just something else for you, but open it up. So me, it's opening your heart, opening your mind, and allowing things to come towards you. It's allowing yourself to be inspired, or like that people might be on that journey and then they hear this podcast and they hear you speak and it suddenly clicks and they go, oh my God, we could try that.
No. And a good friend of mine, when we were going through our trying period, she just said to me, Claire, if you and I knew I really wanted to have kids, I'm a Cancerian, my husband is as well. Cancers are like the family sign of the zodiac. Our first conversation when we met was about having children. So it wasn't going to not happen for us. It had to happen. Luckily, I had an open mind and an open heart, to
Yeah.
explore the avenues needed. But a friend of mine did say, because I was so into this spiritual, oh, if God wanted me to have it, it would happen. And I was really, I genuinely was positive every month. So it shocked me when it wasn't from stress or negativity. I genuinely believed it would always happen. But now I understand that maybe that was my lemons margarita type thing to go on and help others. And that's great. It's amazing. But my friend just said to me, and we were driving to work, and she said, I was anti-IVF. I was a spiritual person. I wasn't going to be intervened and I was into drugs. And she said, if you really want a baby, you might have to do IVF. And I said, oh, no, I won't be doing it. So 4 years later, we went to a doctor who sent us that route. And I was anti-egg donor then as well, as they kept putting pamphlets in my folder because I know fairly quickly, you know, what the issues are. So the pamphlets are going in the bin, they were be put in, this kind of thing. And when some of my tests were done, the doctor just said my options. I was on my own. She knew I was the emotional part of the couple, so she wondered where my husband was that day. She could talk to him better, but he wasn't there. We didn't know he should have been there. So the bad news was broken that I'd have to go IVF. And I just did a 360. It was like all my beliefs are gone out the window. Okay, we're doing this now. So I broke the news to my husband of, you know, what the results were and what we would have to do. And he looked, you know, very nervously at me saying, what do you think? And I said, well, we have to do it. And sometimes, you know, the gift I gave him was opening my mind to what I thought I was against because, you know, we wanted our family and it's not always perfect, you know, but I mean, it's kind of perfect now, but it still drive you mad. And, you know, even when they come, it's just something else to give out about it. So,
it's
as we
just
all know.
natural. It's just us, you know, in our human nature, you know, that is life. And just because you get these beautiful miracles, don't you have to go around floating on air? You're a normal mother. I'd
Yeah.
like to ask you about your husband being a medical scientist.
Yeah.
Um, because again, for me, the science of us as human beings, the science of our mind, everything intrigues me. As I said, I'm a very curious person. So when you, is it Michael, your husband is?
Shane.
Shane, excuse me, Shane. Don't know why Michael came in. That name was very strong in around you for a minute. We'll have to come back to that.
Yeah.
But with Shane, you know, when you met him, and obviously, you know, two lovely people passionate about each other in life and all of that. And when you started, you know, really exploring the spiritual aspect of your own being and your life, how did Shane respond to that? You know, was he curious or did he foo-foo it away or
Yeah, there's loads of answers to that. So I'll just
yeah.
have to go with what comes first. The nicest thing he did was he accepted it. And I'm down as Clary Fairy on his phone from day one.
Love it.
So if I'm gone somewhere, you know, holisticy and he's with his boys, he just says I'm going to a fairy festival. But he says that with love and joking, you know, joking.
Yes.
And my book is called Away with the Fairies. So, you know,
Yes.
it's kind of but there's a few interesting things there, I suppose. His mum was open to the holistic world. So it's not his thing, but he's heard plenty about it. Also the night I met him, was 10, 11 years ago. I was going back to school. I just found a lot of the guys I dated wanted the blonde primary school teacher in the sports car. And
Mm.
I was a lot more than that. And I had that. I had, you know, it was the look of what they thought they were getting, kind of. So I kind of went through a phase of, and it's funny that I say this because I wasn't any of these things. I told them all I was an intuitive energy healer, just to be really mad, you know, when I was out. But it's kind of actually is what I do now.
Yes.
But it wasn't. I just done a bit of coaching. I think I was doing a bit of healing, learning about healing. I certainly wasn't an intuitive energy healer at
Yeah.
all. But I liked the guys who'd stay around past that intro. I kind of thought, okay, they're open to whatever else could come here. And I
Yeah.
did tell my husband when we met I was going to be a writer. I hadn't written it all at the time. I just told him I was going to be a writer and I do all this kind of thing. And he said, yeah, that's fine. And I asked, would you mind the kids if I was off somewhere? And he said he would. So he was just open and accepting of whatever madness would come out of my mouth, you know,
Oh.
and that's fabulous. On a more serious note, and this is kind of still acceptance. When I'm doing IET, integrated energy therapy, when a person comes for a basic level class, they're getting an attunement to their human DNA or their DNA. And there's this kind of, in IET, there's a 12-strand DNA that's activated or expanded or empowered. And that's what we work on. And I just kind of briefly mentioned to my husband, I've attuned him to all the levels, just so we're frequency kind of
Yeah.
connected and, you know, that, and my kids are all attuned. So we all have this similar kind of frequency. But when I teach the basic level IET, the first two strands are they get their attunement, and that's the physical and emotional. And my husband had a serious conversation because he said, no, he said, there's a 2-strand DNA. And I said, no, there's a 12-strand DNA. And I had to pull out my book. And he was like, no, only scientists have only discovered this 2-strand physical DNA. And so it's just so interesting. And he'll just kind of laugh then at my 12-strand, but kind of gets it. But he doesn't go there. So if he wants me to manifest or ask for healing, he'll ask me to ask my fairies or me to ask the angels. But he believes in it. It's not his thing. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
funny little match. Works well. He keeps me very grounded,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. And I think we don't all have to be the same. And I think that's, again, it's lovely, but the word you used is the acceptance, and I think there's many people. I just heard from a lady the other day, and I attuned her into Reiki, and she loves doing it, but her partner doesn't support her doing it. And it's quite hard because she's very passionate about doing. So again, it doesn't have to be about energy or spiritual work. It could be something in your life that you want to do, and it could be even going for IVF or doing another route, and one of the partners is just not up for it. And that can be quite hard and challenging on a relationship. But
Yeah.
I would say don't give up, but just open the door, try it for yourself. And if your partner sees, it's making you a little bit happier, it's bringing more joy into your life, they'll either come on board or they'll just say, off with you, you're doing great work. I don't understand it or whatever it is, but
Right.
fine, off with you. And I think even for my husband, John, he's a Cancerian also. So I was
Look at
smiling.
you.
And I'm an Aquarius. So I'm way,
Opposites.
so like that, he keeps me very grounded, but I bring him on all the beautiful journeys of dreams and what
Oh,
we
of
could
course.
do and all of those things. But
Amazing.
when I met him, he would have been from a background as well of, seeing it just as it is. He'd have his dreams and all of that, but I would see the dream already created in my mind, and I knew it was coming, and he'd say, you can't just come out of thin air, Sharon. And I'm saying, just wait till you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at one stage, then he works in an architect's office. So again, straight lines, measurements, all of those things,
Mhm.
buildings. And he was made redundant from the company that he
Oh
worked in. It
dear.
was during the hard times. And when he came home, Claire, he said, I have good news and bad news. And I said, what's the good news? And he said, we'll be okay. And I said, we always are. And he said, the bad news is I've been made redundant. And I said, that's just news, John. That's all it is. That's the way I looked at it. And he actually went to learn bioenergy therapy
Oh my God.
because he felt like the Reiki, because I'm very intuitive, and the way I would describe using the energy, helping people, he was going, I can't do that. Who could do that?
Mhm.
And I said, you just open up to the energy and whatever needs to come and all of that stuff. But he did the bioenergy, and it's all protocols and everything, but it's still the
That's
energy.
it. Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
opened up his world, and it changed the way he looked at
Amazing.
things for himself.
Wow.
Instead of me trying to explain it or ask him to understand the way I felt, he
Mhm.
actually went and allowed himself to feel it in his own way. And it was so empowering for him.
Amazing. Oh, well done. That was amazing, wasn't it? Well done,
Yeah.
him as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think never give up on the people we love, that they're open to things. They may not necessarily do like John and go, and learn some form of energy therapy session, or, for themselves. They might go to one, but they may not go into to learn about it and practice it. But I just think we need to be open with them also. It's like your
Yeah.
lovely husband Shane, he sees you and he sees the joy that you're bringing yourself and others, and he's smiling, which is good.
Yes.
And I love the fact that he asks you to ask your fairies if he wants to manifest something. He's kind of probably,
Ask
oh,
them
they
to
probably
ask
mightn't like me now, so I'll ask Claire to ask them.
He said, they'll listen to me, this is the
Yeah.
idea. Oh, it works for you. But it's funny, there was a lady called me yesterday. She's from up north, Donegal, and she's booked in for the next Akashic Records workshop. And so that was fine. And it's just out of the blue, mad stuff, all this. And she just said, oh, wait till I tell himself now we're coming down to Leash to go overnight to go to this. And I said, oh, just tell him it's, but he's fine. He does it, and he'll drive her down and he'll stay and he'll wait around. And that's lovely. And I just think an act of love sometimes is support. You don't have to be there with them. And another lady I had in our last Akashic Records workshop went through years of the spiritual path and healings and courses and workshops, and had obviously some kind of background in osteoarthritis, and just kept telling her husband every Saturday she was off, I'm going to a course on osteoarthritis, and eventually during COVID, you didn't get away with everything because we were all together. And she just said, where did you think I was going all these times? And kind of, showed him or told him what she was into, and just asked, look, you don't have to believe in it or agree with it, but just this is something that makes me happy. But it's nicer to have someone that supports whatever that is, whatever that is. Yeah.
And I think it's that conversation and sharing. It's like what you said at the very start, Claire. It's lovely to have a different interest to your partner or people in your family, so that when you come together, you have something to share, whether they believe it or they think whatever, but that you're sharing a part of your day and your mind, your heart with them, and that's a beautiful thing to share with people. Because again, a conversation for me is learning, is listening and learning from the other person, even if you don't understand it. But it's opening your mind, it's planting a little seed. We don't know where it's going to grow, but that's the thing. It's to be interested and curious in other people and other things in life. And that, as you said at the very start, there is so much out there, so much out there. And we get lost within these little minds, in this little life, thinking it's just this, when it's so expansive if we really allow it, isn't it?
Yeah. And something's coming in here. And I tell people on courses, with your intuition, the most random things are usually the best. So it's for one of us or one of the listeners. But in schools at the moment, there's this kind of theory and practice of restorative practice in working with children. So rather than, you did this and you did that, right, you have to go and have your time out or whatever it is. It's actually kind of like what we're talking about here. It's sitting and hearing each story, each point of view. The Akashic Records level 1 healing is the point of view. And I'd say, what happened there, Sharon, for you? And you hear them out fully. And then I sometimes do it with the children. We role model, because I'm equally annoyed half the time. I'm trying to deal with these issues. And we might say, what happened for you? And I say how I felt as the teacher. And then you'd say, well, who was affected? And you go into maybe causes or concerns around the people and the feelings or the blocks that can be created energetically. And then there's at the end, it's like, well, what can we do to make this right? How can we correct things? And this is at infant level, what happened? Who was affected? How can we make it right? In Akashic level record, conscious working, it's, what's your point of view? What happened? But really listening. What's the cause or condition, or how have we been affected here? What's the pattern that you maybe have taken on, or what's going on in your family, or what's the recurring, issue? And then how can you make it right? What's the truth there? It's the energy of forgiveness often. It's the energy of patience sometimes. It's the energy of support in a partnership or acceptance. Some of the things we've touched on here. And that's what we can do daily with little kids in schools when we're doing restorative practice. We're teaching them how to have a relationship, how to be at odds in a relationship, which we all have and do, and how to restore that to harmony, So I suppose the Akashic Records can do that on a really high soul level frequency, but you bring that learning down and then it can ripple out, so you plant a little seed or you throw a stone in the pond, the ripple effects go where they need to go, and that's really lovely as well.
That is so beautiful. And I love that, asking the child, even that has kind of blown my mind. My kids are all grown up now, but it's asking the child how they felt, who did this affect? So you're making them aware that their words or actions are affecting other people. I just think that's amazing, because again, there was a time where children were just, do what I say, and do it that way, and this is the right way. Whereas you're even looking at yourself as a teacher and also saying to the child, that the way I am has affected you, and opening up the conversation. I think that's really empowering our young children.
And it's coming into the school. So like this wellness, we're on a roll, but also these children are highly sensitive children. Some of the messages I kind of impart with people with infertility and this kind of unfair feeling. It is very unfair to have to
Yeah.
pay 15 grand, when somebody
Yeah.
else gets pregnant by just getting drunk, there's
Yeah.
a lot of unfairness to it. Or some
Yeah.
of these houses and families that have everything to offer and give and want it so much, and they're the ones can't. There's a lot of that there with IVF. But I have this feeling or belief, or I don't know what it is, but I just feel that these kids coming in now, I can speak from my experience, the IVF kids are a different frequency. They need to come in a different way. They're kind of picking, families and couples that really, really want them because they're very sensitive. They're coming maybe from a different, space or
Yeah.
dimension, and they need all that laid out. And they also need their parents to overcome a few bits.
Yes.
So you're ready, willing and able, but are you really ready for maybe what comes with a highly sensitive child?
Yeah.
Even as lovely as I can be here, I can be shouting at my poor
Mm.
little sensitive creature because, they take their time. She's here to teach me patience. What did
Yeah.
I have, before I even had her, but patience. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of layers, and it's certainly not a singular kind of prescription, when you work with energy. But I do believe the IVF kind of race of children, which are more and more as we go along, are coming, with a different energy, with a different expectation into a school system that now allows for meditation and creativity and mindfulness and restorative practice in relationships. So these are different, they're a different ball game, these kids. And
Yeah.
as I say, my little one is teaching me,
Mm.
about love. And I'm supposed to be the teacher in the family, So yeah, I think there's an awareness there that maybe IVF is okay if that's the path that they're to come. It's their path, not ours. We're
Yeah.
here to meet them and allow them into our family, but we're not the ones. It's their energy is coming, and if that's how they need to come, it's kind of allowing that,
Yeah.
and that can kind of release that blockage, if that makes sense for
Yeah,
someone.
absolutely. I think that is the most beautiful point, Claire, because again, it's, allowing whatever way they need to come into this world. That is, it's again the allowing, the acceptance that it might not be the natural way or even IVF, it could be whatever way, but allowing yourself to open up to, if you really feel it, as you said, and then if we really want it, it's something we really want in our lives, excuse me, and you have to work a little bit harder for it, that child knows that you've done the hard work to
Yeah,
accept them and their frequency and their energy into this world. So you're going to be the perfect parent, bringing them
right.
on that journey, supporting their journey until they can go out there on their own. And I always say this about my children, they were my greatest teachers,
Oh, yeah.
both of them. And they're still teaching me, and they're now 23 and 21. They're still teaching me about opening up to unconditional love, acceptance, being yourself, not having to be what society says you have to be, allowing yourself to express yourself in your clothes and, your friendships, all of those things. And they've really opened up my mind and my heart, a lot of ways. And they're not perfect. They've all go through their own struggles, but how they cope with it is completely different than how I coped with my struggles 20
Yeah,
something years ago, and how open they are to support and to being guided, and looking for that. Whereas we were kind of ashamed of saying there was something maybe that we needed supported with. So everything is changing. So for your beautiful girls coming up the generation afterwards, I think it's going to be a very beautiful place with all these wonderful children teaching us so much. And
yeah,
I think, yes, on a soul level, we have agreed, to have this journey with them and to support them. And
support
our
them.
role might be not just about ourselves and our sole purpose. Maybe our sole purpose is to bring these children into the world, in particular for you and Shane,
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
support their journey. I just think that's so beautiful, Claire.
It is. But I suppose one thing I picked up on there when you spoke, you didn't say the word, but it was all about the resilience of the human spirit, which is what drew me to you when you
Yeah.
contacted me first. And I suppose you have taught them resilience. You've actually, because you had to learn it the hard way, you
Yeah.
taught them this is how to be resilient. This is how to look at your problems. And they're just doing that. And they're empowering you then because they're showing you, oh, look,
Yeah.
that you were the teacher. And it's lovely to
Yeah.
see that. and they'll go on then and just bring more of that. As I say, the ripple effect goes forward.
Yeah.
But we are creating and co-creating this new world at the moment. Whether we like it or not. Much of what I wrote about in A Way with Fairies was all the 2012 energy at the time. So that was published in 2013. And it was all kind of energy work and opening my mind. And I really thought there was a big bang in 2012 and we'd come in and we'd be a whole new world of consciousness, which we didn't really, but I did. I opened up to spirit and awareness, but the world didn't really.
No.
But COVID did shut it down, and we've all come out, and most people are coming out changed. They understand how it's good to actually slow down. We've really curtailed friendships. I've actually become more sociable post-COVID. I would have been a lot more introverted, not liking to be around the company too much. Whereas now, we're happy to be out and see people, but people's energies have shifted. Glasna House, the holistic centre I used to work from, has become a full-time Glasna House support centre now for counselling, psychotherapy, because if people weren't on the path, they're going through their stages, the cocooning for the butterfly will fly. So that caterpillar is no longer, I would say. I think people are cocooning, some are flying, and we're moving into a free world. I really believe that. And these kids come in knowing it. So they hopefully won't get too many blocks and, issues from us. They will. But, even already when I create some, I need you to go in and start clearing them for them, and bring in the angels and try and clear it. And actually, we resolve things so quickly now. We don't have harboring resentments that, different generations would have had, hopefully. But we can learn to work with energy and let go of what we don't need, or what's holding us back, so we can move forward and be free and empowered. So all that you say and all that you encompass, the resilience of the human spirit, is amazing.
Claire, it's been fascinating talking to you. The hour has flown by so quickly. I'm so grateful to you. A beautiful conversation, and one that, as I said, it's one where I feel very gripped by and focused on and more curious, and I know my listeners will be too. So when is your next How to Read the Akashic Records workshop?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm working from Glasna House Holistic Centre in near Athy in County Laois. I have one on the 13th of May, Saturday 13th of May. I think I will I'll leave my details with you if people are interested. There's definitely I would say you could do it via Zoom as well, because there's no attunement in it. So I think it's always small group, because it's really soulful work and, you're really working. But I think if people get in touch, you'll have the details there, and we'll see about kind of doing small group Zoom meetings. I'm looking to do kind of Galway during the summer, but I don't have any date or venue at the moment, but I'm sure it'll all unfold.
Perhaps I can help you with the venue, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, maybe so. And so we'll kind of allow that to unfold as well. But it's beautiful work. I'll just show this. This is the book I use, I send out to people. So it's How to Read the Akashic Records by Linda Howe. And we use that book then. And I try and make it, when I'm teaching, I make it really systematic, as I like to learn, and really just learn by doing as well. So you can go away and I'll refer to what you need to read yourself, but learn by doing when you're together, because when you're in the energy of a training, as you know from Reiki as well, so much comes up, and it's so easy when you're in the group setting. So you want to get as much of that in the workshop as you can, and then go away and practice. So yeah, it's really lovely.
That's beautiful. So you're on Facebook, Clare Mansfield. And you're on LinkedIn. Are you on Instagram, Claire?
Do you know what I'll give you for now, but it's only at the setup stage, is Flowering with Clare is going to be the website, podcast, website and social media, all of that. It's not up yet, but it'll be up soon enough. And I think I'm Clare Mansfield in Facebook. I'm really terrible at this. My friend is going to do all the admin for me.
That's
so
all right.
Creative.
And it's part of it as well. It's just part of it, but once you have it done, then it's easy to do it. But if they can contact you on Facebook or message you privately there if anybody is interested in the How to Read the Akashic Records workshop in May. and your forthcoming publication, Flowering by Claire. That
Yes.
is, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
And you're currently working on Revelations, How to Receive the Gift of Life. My
Yes.
purpose and vision for this book is that it helps encourage, supports, and inspires those on the difficult path of infertility towards a new path, fresh with new possibilities and ideas. That is so beautiful. And we're not forgetting Away with the Fairy, a fairy's guide to true love that you
My
published.
first baby.
And you know what, your first book is so there's a love story with
Yeah,
it anyway, because it is getting yourself out there, putting yourself out. I know. So I
great.
absolutely applaud you, Claire. Thank
Very
you so
much.
much. And
Thank you
again,
for
I ask my listeners to contact Claire if you have any questions around anything that we've spoken about, because we've covered quite a lot.
those.
And yeah, but it's wonderful. You know, it's wonderful because it's really encapsulates a human existence and what we have to go through, what we can learn. It's not all about the good stuff, it's also about the challenges that we all face in our lives
Yeah,
and how we can still find the balance and joy in them.
in that, I totally agree. And congratulations, what you do. It's lovely. It's been lovely to be on your podcast, my first podcast. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Claire. So thank you everyone for listening, and I look forward to connecting to you all again soon.